Joining us today on What the Heck is Happening in HR is Scott Grooms, Certified Employee Benefits Specialist and President and CEO of Grooms Benefits here in the Tampa Bay area. This is such an exciting conversation we're going to have about employee benefits. But let me tell you a little bit about Scott first. He's a 20-year veteran in employee benefits and has a passion to help businesses transition their employee benefits from a cost of doing business into a strategic business investment. He is president and CEO of Grooms Benefits, and that's an independent and privately held benefits brokerage and consulting firm in Tampa, Florida. It provides expertise to employers nationwide on how to best manage successful group insurance programs that benefit both employers and employees. He is a certified employee benefits specialist and sits as past president on the board of the Tampa Bay chapter of the International Society of Certified Employee Benefits Specialists. And he's a graduate of the University of Florida. His company information is groomsbenefit.com, and you can connect with him on LinkedIn. Welcome today, Scott. For our podcast disclaimer, please visit the episode description. Thanks so much for joining us on What the Heck is Happening in HR. And today, what's happening is, or I guess, are benefits. What is going on with benefits in 2024? And today we have got an expert. Scott Grooms is with us. He's a certified employee benefits specialist. And as the intro showed, lots of experience and owns the Grooms Consulting Group. Thanks so much for being here, Scott.
Well, thanks, Kelly. Appreciate you having me.
So I would like to chat as to what's happening with benefits in 2024. We're 3 years past the pandemic. We've got lots of entrepreneurs starting their businesses. What's going on with benefits?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? The answer is a lot, and that's always the case, and probably why we have a job, right? So, but I think that on the top of everyone's mind when you think of benefits is health insurance, right? I mean, I think if you ask an employer in terms of their particular, benefit hot topics, managing healthcare costs is probably top three, if not the top item each and every year. And then you read what is anticipated for 2024, and it's no different than what has been over the last, 10, 15 years. 8.5% forecasted increase in costs. You can point out some of the factors with high inflation, provider shortages. A big one is provider consolidation, specialty medications, and certainly serious chronic condition management. And some of that, we mentioned COVID, is due to deferred care.
Oh, yeah.
During that time of the pandemic.
Yeah, health insurance, it didn't go away, right? I mean, they thought at some point, some folks thought that, the changing health insurance environment was going to bring massive changes to it. And it did bring some, but certainly the costs have not slowed down compared to what we thought.
No, and unfortunately, if anything, I think it's ticking up from some of the reasons that I mentioned. And I think I remember back when I first entered the benefits industry in 1999, and when we went to a Florida employer and said, "Hey, we have a health insurance renewal coming up, and we're going to solicit X amount of insurance carriers for options," we had 12, 15 health insurance carriers from which to choose at that time. And now you have essentially 4.
Wow.
And so I think with, the reduction in those carrier options, especially the small and mid-sized employers, they're kind of conditioned now where if they get a 10, 12% increase in group health rates, like, oh, that's not that bad. So which is, unreal. And but that's where we are today. That's probably the only business line item where you can probably say that that happens. So it's very very tough to manage, and I think employers are wrestling with what to do with high costs and high premiums and high out of pocket costs, and there's a lot to balance there.
Scott, is there more consolidation going on?
Well, from a carrier perspective, Humana, even though initially they were sought to be one of the carriers to be acquired, they pulled out of the group medical marketplace about a year ago or so. And so effective January 1 this year, no longer offering that product. So in terms of additional carrier consolidation, I don't see that happening between Aetna, Cigna, Florida Blue, or whatever the Blue Cross Association is, and United. But what we do see and continue to see that's impacting costs is provider consolidation. And what I mean by that are hospitals continue to acquire not just other hospitals, but also independent facilities that might be providing, outpatient care, imaging, and doctor groups.
Hmm.
And so the more that that happens, certainly that means less competition, but it also means hospital-based pricing, for those entities as well,
Mm-hmm.
which we know is a multiple of independent, providers.
Right.
So it's kind of the perfect storm between lack of carrier options and providers consolidating.
Wow. What? Well, okay. What else is going on?
Scott, is there positive news? Yeah. So I think we've covered kind of the why. Now it's what do you do about those
Mm-hmm.
healthcare costs? And I think that we're coming to, if not already there, a tipping point with smaller to mid-sized businesses. Those with maybe under a couple hundred employees or so, which is the majority of the employers that are out there. And I think there comes a time where these businesses are either going to, what I like to call, either embrace or disengage. And what I mean by that is, there's some different ways now for smaller businesses just within the last 4 or 5 years that have enabled smaller businesses to participate in a little bit more forward-thinking, contemporary, group health programs that allow for more of a long-term program and a risk mitigation strategy and just your annual renewal. And there's a lot more into that, Kelly, in terms of how does that work and how does that compare to my fully insured plan. But it takes more time,
Mm-hmm.
more effort. It takes 100% buy-in by C-level or
Yep.
ownership of the employer, and really it needs to be a part of the business.
Yep.
Not just a line item and a cost of doing business, but really embracing some of these strategies. And if you're not a fit, whether it's an industry or your personnel group, and I know you and I have talked about this, but now you have the ICRA, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have the individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement where you can get out of the annual group medical renewal cycle and provide folks with X amount of dollars and help facilitate them purchasing coverage that makes sense for them, which is much easier, for folks to budget. And so I think that's I think we're there where businesses are having to make those difficult decisions rather than just doing traditional status quo renewals.
Yeah, I worry about those because if they're handing the cash out, how will I know it's a reimbursement, but they have to go find something, and they don't know what questions always to ask. And I worry that they're, if you will, wandering the streets trying to find a plan that works for them. And it sort of reminds me I joined a firm one time, and on their relocation, they thought it was a really good idea that instead of taking care of the relocation, they would just give them the money or reimburse them for it. And meanwhile, they're pricing out U-Hauls and trucks and movers and packers. And I'm just like, really, we just want them to come in and work. Can't we just do this for them? And, it's an investment in getting them to work quicker. And so I worry about that. Am I just being silly worrying about that? And that's
No,
okay if
that
you say yes.
no, that's a big part of, if you're going to contribute money towards, for your employees to help meet their, health insurance needs, you certainly don't want to leave them, out to dry and fend for themselves. So a part of that kind of pivot to an ICRA or reimbursing folks
Mhm.
for their individual health insurance policies, you certainly want to help facilitate the process in terms of helping them make those decisions, provide them with individual healthcare or policy options. And, that could be done remotely in terms of having, one-on-one counseling sessions with licensed insurance folks, or sometimes it could be done on site,
Mhm.
and helping individuals select their individual coverage, just like maybe some one-on-one, open enrollment style benefits that
Yeah.
have been around a while. So you definitely want to help facilitate that. If not, it's going to go sideways. It's not going to be successful, and then you're going to have more backlash than you have with maybe a 20% increase.
Right. Right. So, is there anything that's not that that isn't unique because there's always plan design changes, there's the financing structure. So, anything else that's really seeming to get some steam under it that's different, innovative, just maybe even something that was done years ago and now we're back at it?
Yeah, I think that that's the other side of it is even though there's been, insurance carrier consolidation, a lack of options, there's been a lot of different organizations that are forward thinking and providing additional options that are maybe non-traditional or self-funded or captive based solutions to small businesses, even down to, 15, 20 employees. That wasn't always the case, even though those concepts have been around a while. And so, with some sophisticated technology and a way to identify a population's risk other than just individual medical questionnaires, small employers are able to kind of band together, to help their health insurance arrangement kind of work and feel a little bit more like a Fortune 500 business
Mhm.
where you have enough bodies to offset your individual risk. So, that's one of those under the category of embracing the group health plan, right? Because there's a lot to understand. It's not your traditional 12-month fully insured, policy. And so that's exciting because, as you know, once you are away from fully insured and you're under that kind of partially self-insured arrangement, there's a lot of neat things that you can do to help combat the, high costs, high frequency
Mhm.
claims and deliver with, a little bit more high touch customer service other than traditional carriers. So that's, that's exciting. And I think, that's where, I think that even more involvement will continue to go. As we know, especially in Florida, how many small businesses are out there compared to large
Oh
businesses. So
yeah.
big opportunity, for those employers that are ready to invest the time and the effort and have advisors to help them get there.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely just can't wing it and do it on their own. I wonder, have you seen? I know we didn't talk about this ever in the past, but here comes a question, which I know you're probably prepared to answer, and that is, I thought about it as you were talking about the innovative route that places have gone and how to perhaps lessen some of the cost. What about the telehealth thing? That was like a big deal during COVID. And at one point, that's where it took off. And now we're going to be able to have less cost or less disruption for the employees, or the employees will go more when they're first sick and then get better. My gut tells me that that didn't give us as great a savings as we thought, and that the cost of like specialty drugs and some of the really advanced specialties in handling medicines have really taken over the cost of any savings that might have come. That was a long question. Sorry about that.
No, those are two big items in terms of your plan design, your coverage, things to think about. How to provide care for your workforce. And so I think initially with COVID, people were using telemedicine maybe for the first time. Now you fast forward to 2024, and even though this was around pre-COVID, now you have primary care options through telemedicine. So you could have a virtual relationship, with a doctor if you're comfortable with that, to seek care. So it's
Hmm.
more than just a one-off. I have pink eye, or I have the flu, and calling telemedicine. I think it's more now evolving into primary care, mental health,
Hmm.
ongoing visitation, and the savings is there compared to traditional office savings. The question is, behaviorally, are folks going to utilize the benefit within that organization? Is there a way to track it? And are they going to continue to use it going forward? And, I think the jury's still a little bit out there.
Hmm.
And it also revolves around, I know you've had this on your past sessions, are around employee communication. If you do not know that benefit's there, you can't use it. And so it's more than just open enrollment. It's year round, making sure folks know
Yeah.
what that benefit is, how to use it, what the cost is. And most employers are setting it up as a $0 copay, or close to it, to incent folks to use it. But so, I think there's a little general savings there as long as folks are utilizing those benefits. The other side of the your question on specialty medications is a real challenge. And that's not going away, and the pipeline's only going to get bigger. So, these days it's not uncommon when you look at a pharmacy spend for an employer, half of it is for specialty medications, even if it's only representing, 5% of the utilization of the whole plan.
Hmm.
Um, and so, how do you get creative on keeping those costs down? And that is a challenge. I think there's more and more creative solutions around that. But that's one of those cost inflationary items that's not going away either.
Yeah, and even on different procedures, I remember the discussions that took place. There were philosophical conversations, and then there were cost conversations about adding IVF to your program, right? And then also, I think of the Ozempic stuff, and I'm just using that, those types of drugs, and the conversation around the cost of those, and is it better for them not to be overweight compared to this cost, and is this still the right solution, and is it long term? And so having those conversations, again, philosophically as well as cost, I think are really important for organizations to go through.
Absolutely. What's in terms of handling a particular prescription drug, in addition to just gathering data, is what's our culture like,
Hmm.
right? I mean, are we cutting edge and more proactive on allowing these types of medications to be a part of our program, or does it fit who we want to be?
Hmm.
Um, and so there's a lot involved with with those types of drugs, treating those types of conditions or situations for folks for sure.
Mm-hmm. What anything else you see that we should keep our eye out for on 2024?
Yeah, there. So I think we've talked a little bit about the small mid market, segment and kind of tipping point for employers. But one thing that just hit the press a month ago is a first of its kind class action lawsuit against Johnson and Johnson. This is a big deal. Um, and it revolves mainly around the cost of prescription drugs available through the plan and comparing that to the cost of the prescription if they used, a good RX or just went
Mm-hmm.
direct to the pharmacy. And they not only the organization is being sued, but 23 individual folks within the benefits and pension committee of Johnson and Johnson are also involved with this.
Wow.
So what this means is if you are self-insured and you are managing a health insurance program, then you need to go down the list of actions in order to meet all of those fiduciary duties that at least the claim on Johnson and Johnson is what they were not doing.
Hmm.
And so I think, if you recall where we were, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago with 401k
Oh
plans,
yeah.
fees that were included, underperforming funds,
Right.
and the DOL started having a heyday. I think there's a series of other employers that I think are unfortunately lined up to experience something similar to this. And the Consolidated Appropriations Act kind of helped bring some of these things to light. So this is a landmark case, and really, if you haven't been performing those functions of overseeing plan expenses and appropriations, now is certainly the time, and keep posted to see where this thing goes.
Yeah, certainly. Wow. Well, my head is spinning. There's so much going on in benefits and in 2024. I appreciate everything you've shared with us, and I appreciate your willingness to just really dive into some of the conversation. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks so much for having me, Kelly.